Welcome, everyone, to a brand new episode of the Cover 2 podcast. It's a podcast Monday. I am Jared Smith.
And I am Nick Nenad, the brother of wide receiving star at Yale, Chase Nenad.
That's right. I know Nick's been tweeting all week. What do you have? I know we have one touchdown. He had like 3 long grabs. I mean, the dude was looking NFL ready already. So, NFL scouts, Yale football, that's where it's at. So, shout out to Yale. I know Nick's going to be there later in the season when they play Harvard. But Yale is legit. They got some real dudes out there. So, shout out to him. You were sending me those videos. That was pretty dang cool. But for today, we got NFL football, professional leagues to talk about. We're not necessarily going to talk about the games more so, but we're going to get into the trade deadline, which is actually tomorrow, I believe. So we're going to talk about what teams could potentially be selling, what teams could be buyers in the market. So there was already a trade that just happened within the hour that we're going to get to in a moment. So packed show for you guys. But like I mentioned at the top, we got to get started with the NFL, and we're going to specifically talk about the trade deadlines. That trade that went down a little bit earlier today was Roquan Smith, the linebacker for the Chicago Bears, who was traded to the Baltimore Ravens. Wow. The Ravens gave up a second and a fifth round pick. So the Bears are just getting compensation, and it looks like they're just rebuilding, right? But for the Ravens, this is huge because they already have Patrick Queen, which is a really good linebacker. But for some reason, that Ravens defense just hasn't been like when you think of a Ravens defense, it's like Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, right? It's just stout, tough. They don't give up yards. In the AFC North, it's really tough. So I think this is huge for them defensively to get a player of his caliber. What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal for the Ravens. And I'll get to this in a second, although I think they need a little bit more help on offense, it never hurts Jared Smith to get a star defensive player. And I think that's what Roquan Smith is. If you don't think he's a star, he's right on the edge of there. He's a Pro Bowl guy. It doesn't hurt. And you didn't give up a first. I know a second is a big deal, but I'd always take NFL mature talent that's made Pro Bowls, that's done stuff in the playoffs, rather than some second round pick that might not work out. So a win-win for the Ravens. They don't give up a first for a guy that deserves a first. And the Ravens have an extra linebacker now. And, a team that we've gone back and forth on in the Ravens and thinking that they're a legitimate contender. They've played a little bit better. They're starting to beat teams they should beat. Lamar looks a little better. And even with all the injuries, this team is still finding ways to win football games, which is something a lot of NFL teams right now with star guys can't do. Okay, so winning in the NFL this year seems to be at a premium. And for the Ravens, they already are doing that. And now they add a star, win-win. Great job from the Baltimore Ravens getting Roquan Smith.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we don't need to harp on this too much because we need to hype Roquan Smith up unless you're just under a rock and you don't know who this guy is. I'll tell you who he is really quick. He was a first-round pick out of Georgia, and we all know that Georgia produces defensive talent. Just look what they did in this past year's NFL draft. But for Roquan Smith exclusively, this year he leads the NFL in tackles, and since coming into the league 4 years ago, he's the leading tackler the past 4 years, right? So the dude is a sideline to sideline, just east-west. He is in a 2022 NFL version linebacker. That's the guy that you want. Right now, maybe he could be a little bit taller because I think he's under 6 foot. So maybe the height, the size is not there, but everything else, instincts, speed, quickness, agility, smarts, all those things, that Roquan Smith is the linebacker that you want in today's NFL because he can hit you and thump you, but he can also cover tight ends and backs. He does it all, right? And so this is a big get for the Ravens. And you're right, Nick. I think in the NFL specifically, it's becoming easier. I don't want to say easier. I think it's becoming more common for trades to happen, right? Trades used to be like non-existent in the NFL, and that was because of contracts and because of teams and owners being more reluctant. But I think we've seen in the past couple of years, especially in the off seasons, like when one goes, it opens the floodgates. We saw that with the receiver market in the offseason, and I think we're starting to see that now, right? We saw the Cowboys last week. Also, shout out to my Cowboys. They got a big win, 6-2, going on to a bye. I mean, listen, I got to throw them in there. But no, the Cowboys get Jonathan Hankins from the Las Vegas Raiders last week. The Philadelphia Eagles got Robert Quinn from the Chicago Bears last week as well, right? So we're seeing so far defensive players who have been being traded, and where in the offseason it was a bunch of offensive guys. So yes, teams that are, looking to make that kind of next step or that extra jump offensively or defensively are more willing to make a trade than I think in years past when it was more reluctant.
Yeah, no, it didn't make a lot of sense that the NFL didn't do a lot of trades back in the day, because there was teams that had needs, and you don't always need to get, like, I know baseball, basketball, hockey, sometimes you see real star players get traded. The NFL, there's so many guys that have to contribute. You're not going to have, Kyler Murray get traded in the middle of the season. The NFL values quarterbacks too much, okay? So you need those secondary guys, your corners. Hey, stop it, okay? It's not Kyler's fault. And if you want to talk about your Cowboys, I'm going to say something really quickly, okay? As you all know, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 came out this weekend, I believe, and we fucking lost. But I actually thought Kyler played pretty well, so I think it's more of a certain somebody with the same first letter of their first name and last name that might be a little bit more the problem at this point, especially when you have about 3-4 chances at the end of a game just to simply take the lead, and you never do. So, Jerry, I'm going to admit I didn't watch the game this Sunday.
Really?
No, I was busy. I was busy with my outside life, but and a little bit hungover from Saturday night's Halloween festivities. I was Abraham Lincoln for Halloween because I had to use my height and stuff. So, yeah. But yeah, no, I think it might be a little bit of a a coaching problem with the Cardinals now, because they have everybody back and they're still not winning. So there's only one way to go.
I don't want to get into games specifically, but this is the big deal here. This is the big moment right here on the Cover 2 podcast where Nick Nenad did not take time out of his schedule to watch his beloved Arizona Cardinals.
No, okay, I forgot to say. Hold on.
Does that mean that you're giving up on your Cardinals this year?
No. It was more of that. I was following the game along. I saw DeAndre. Like, I watched the second quarter, and but once it went to halftime, I had to get back to what I was doing. I watched DeAndre Hopkins one-handed Chase Nenad catch, right? I followed most of the game in the second quarter. I just was unable to watch the game. Once I found out what had happened and the fact that we had so many chances, and I was explaining the cliff notes of the game, I was too pissed off and didn't feel like going and watching us lose. That's essentially what it was. And I watched the highlights, the quick 15-minute highlights they show on YouTube. I was not going to go back and watch that whole game. To see Kirk Cousins dumbass beat us, to see Patrick Peterson act like we lit him on fire when he left the team. Calm it down, buddy. You suck now. That's why we let you go. You were too expensive for your ability on the field. Okay, it's the reason why the Vikings don't care about you either, right? And the Vikings fans say the same thing about you that we were saying as Cardinals fans. So I was annoyed, Jared Smith. Have I given up on this team? No, because when you look at the rest of the year, the Los Angeles Rams, not a very good team this year. Absolutely beat them. We still play them one more time. The Seattle Seahawks, beatable. We didn't play them good in the first game. Our next game would be at home against them. It's fine, okay? We can beat them. And then when you look at the 49ers, if we're able to win a couple games, the 49ers, I think, are the most talented team in the NFC West, but they still got Jimmy G at quarterback. And that team has a lot of trouble staying healthy. And their top guys all are very, very breakable. Jimmy G, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Debo's already hurt. So a lot of things can still happen. Have I given up on the Cardinals? No. Plus, there's so many teams that lose in the NFC, the Packers, the Buccaneers. We're fine. We're absolutely fine. If we can win the big NFC West games, I think we still have a chance to make the playoffs. Absolutely. Not giving up.
I had to, because just from what the outsider's perspective, I'm your boy, man. I'm your co-host. I'm looking out for you. And I didn't know if we were already throwing in the towel. You talked about Cliff Kingsbury. So I just needed to make sure that now I will say, the 49ers getting Christian McCaffrey, that's a big freaking deal, right? And they whooped on the Rams without Debo Samuel, and they put up 31 points. I know that Cooper Kupp got injured. I think he's got an ankle, and that played a part. And obviously Matthew Stafford doesn't seem like he's playing the same, but still, 49ers seem like the team to beat in that division. And somehow the Seattle Seahawks are, I believe, if not in first place, like I don't think anyone thought Seattle was going to be this good. Geno Smith has had a resurrection and is a complete 180 of himself. Turns out Pete Carroll can still coach. So that division, while it may not have the record that it did last year, it's still a tough division. And the way that your Cardinals are playing up and down right now, I think that is making it more difficult. I don't know if they've played a consistent game all year long. So that is what would give me pause when talking about the Cardinals, because there's too many issues, whether it's Kyler Murray and, how mentally in is he? Is it Cliff Kingsbury and his play calling and coaching ability? You get DeAndre Hopkins back, but then you lose Marquise Brown, and then Robbie Anderson comes in, but he's still learning the offense, and then James Conner's out, and you know what I mean? So there's a lot going on, and going into the year, it was like, oh, it's going to be the Rams, and then maybe the 49ers, and then probably the Cardinals. And now somehow Seattle's up top. So you're right. You're right in the sense that you never know, but with the Cardinals, you just never know.
No, and that's true. And it's funny too, because we're going to get back to our trade deadline talk. I actually don't believe the Cardinals need to necessarily go out and do anything big, which shows you that like they're a good team. They're just not playing well, right? And when you look at the standings, the Cardinals are in 12th place in the NFC. Who's ahead of them? The Packers, the Buccaneers, the Rams, the Commanders, the 49ers. You know what I'm saying? The Falcons. Like, these are all teams easily, I believe the Cardinals would be good. Like, if you look at the Cardinals and the Packers, on defense, the Packers are probably better. On offense, the Cardinals are so much better, right? The Buccaneers, I mean, what a disaster they are this year. Absolutely beatable. We play them later in the season on Christmas. The Rams, we still play one more time. The Commanders, come on. Stop it, okay? They're not going to do anything.
Heineke, I want Carson Wentz to come back, because Carson Wentz is, to me, the worst quarterback in this situation. They only put up 17 points against the Colts yesterday, but Heineke, looks like he actually brings a spark to that team. So as a Cowboys fan and the Commanders being in Dallas's division, I am actually not scared, but Heineke, I think, gives them the better chance to win than Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is going to make a mistake. Carson Wentz is going to give you 2 or 3 balls in a game that you're going to be like, holy shit, that's the reason why he was a first-round pick and should have been an MVP a couple years ago. But then he's going to make 3 or 4 boneheaded plays, a sack fumble, a bad interception, where you're going to be like, there's the Carson Wentz that I have. So I hope that his thumb heals quickly and that Ron Rivera puts him back in.
Oh, I agree. But so what I'm saying is all of those teams ahead of us, I don't trust to win a game every week. And it's the same thing. If you said, okay, the Buccaneers are going to win this week, Packers are going to win this week, Cardinals are going to win this week. When you looked at the week before this, I'd be like, oh, Cardinals are winning this week. No doubt. Now they didn't, and all 3 teams lost. But Bills, of course, were going to beat the Packers, right? Ravens probably going to beat the Buccaneers. And then you looked at us, and we were playing the 6-1 Vikings. It was like, okay, I think we actually still have the best chance, even though we're playing a 6-1 team, right? So, and then when you look at the Cardinals' schedule, real quick, and we'll get back to the trade deadline. Like I said, their next 3 games: Seahawks, Rams, 49ers. So if they're able to,
I think they go 1-2 in those games.
But if they go 2-1, they're right back there. They again moving up in the standings. The Chargers are not that good this year. The Patriots are not very good this year. The Broncos, these are the teams they're playing. The Broncos suck. Okay, the Buccaneers aren't good. The Falcons are beatable, and then we end the season playing the 49ers. So, you know what I'm saying? We don't actually have that difficult of a schedule, and if we are able to find some consistency, it's a reason why I'm not giving up on this team. They are better than a lot of the teams they play. I think they're better than the Chargers. I think they're better than the Patriots, the Broncos, the Buccaneers, the Falcons. I think they're better than all those teams, so they should win. And maybe they can surprise and beat the 49ers 1-2, right? Because we've had a good history against them. So no problem at all. But let's get back to the trade deadline, Jared, because we do need to talk.
We had to take a little detour there, and that was needed. That was therapeutic. I'm glad we got that out. And I know we can get back to trades. Yeah, what do we got up next?
Well, Jared, so I mean, I'll toss it to you. I've talked a lot about the Cardinals here. What's your main thing you're looking at the trade deadline? Is it a player going somewhere? Is it a team? Give me something here that's your number one thing to look at for the trade deadline.
So
Coming up.
I'm looking on the offensive side of the ball, and after the offseason that we had, where we saw so many star receivers getting traded, and it was like, oh my gosh, like if you haven't traded for a receiver, you need to do it or behind the eight ball, right? But I'm actually not going to go receiver. I'm going to go running back, and I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. So it's been reported by multiple sources that the Bills are in the running back market. They called the Saints about Alvin Kamara, and holy shit, if that would have went down, like that's just unfair. Like Roger Goodell would have had to nix that trade, just like the NBA when Chris Paul was going to go to the Lakers and the NBA nixed that. Like there are just certain things that can't happen because that's a juggernaut right there, especially on offense, right? The Bills are good enough without Alvin Kamara. So the Saints said, no, thank you, unless you're going to give up like 2 first-round picks. It's probably not going to happen, right? So they kind of stretched it so far to where the Bills are like, okay, we can't give up that much capital. And then the Bears are reportedly in the market looking at Kareem Hunt. Well, the Browns are playing tonight on Monday Night Football. Kareem Hunt obviously hasn't had the type of success that we've been accustomed to since he's been in Cleveland. Nick Chubb has been a baller this year. I'm pretty sure he's leading the league in rushing. So could Kareem Hunt be on the block? That would be an interesting move as well. Now, is Kareem Hunt, that 3-down back? I don't know, but I think Buffalo has other running backs, Devin Singletary. They obviously drafted Cook, Dalvin Cook's brother, this past draft, so they can kind of bring Kareem Hunt in and use him as a committee. But I'm looking at the Buffalo Bills, and if they make a move to get a running back of Kareem Hunt's talent, the Bills to me are already. I think we can debate between them and the Eagles. 1A, 1B, whatever you want to say. But the Bills are right up there as one of the best teams in the league. And if they're able to get a legitimate running back to pair with Josh Allen, to pair with Stephon Diggs, to pair with Dalton Knox, and then to pair with that really good defense, I don't see how they can be beat when they're on their A game. So that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, Jared, I that would be the biggest trade because the Bills, in my opinion, are the best team in the National Football League. So if they're able to add, it's really just them and the Chiefs. And like we said a couple weeks ago, when the Bills beat the Chiefs, that essentially guaranteed them the home field advantage come when they play the Chiefs. And that's what's not happened in the playoffs the last couple years. And, a lot of people say Arrowhead's the toughest stadium to play in the world. Right. And so the Bills have not been able to win in Arrowhead, and now they're able to do it, or they're able to have a home game in the playoffs for that big AFC championship game. So, yes, if they're able to add Alvin Kamara, holy shit. Not only are you taking away a potential player that the Chiefs could also go get, but you're going and you're grabbing a guy that legitimately can help you out. If you watched the game last night, Sunday Night Football, it started off really well with Devin Singletary running the ball like a man on fire, right? And then for some reason, they just stopped running, right? And they kind of kept the Packers in the game, and it was weird, right? And Josh Allen's supremely talented, and he ran the ball too. And obviously, this team's going to pass, and Allen can run himself. James Cook did a couple nice runs. So this team is just talented. Even at running back, they're not that bad. But if they're able to get that real game changer, yeah, that would be the biggest trade. I agree with you. Jerry, I'll turn to this. When you look at teams that really need to do something, I one of them comes up real high on my list, and that's the other team that was in Sunday Night Football, and that was the Packers, because the Packers have no receiving core, and the play calling last night against a potential Super Bowl team was atrocious. It was pathetic. It pissed me off because they were running the ball on 3rd and long because Rodgers doesn't trust people. Sammy Watkins couldn't get open. This team desperately needs a wide receiver. And so the number one thing for me, Jared Smith, is that the number one quarterback in the NFL gets some help. So I want to see the Packers go get Chase Claypool, go get Brandon Cooks, who fucking cares how much you have to give up? You need that guy. You need a number one wide receiver, or I legitimately think Aaron Rodgers is going to quit on this team at the end of the season. I think legitimately. I respect Romeo Doubs and what he's done as a rookie. Christian Watson hasn't been able to stay healthy. Randall Cobb got hurt. Watkins is just not the same player. Robert Tunyon can't do much. But you can't just keep concussing Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon over and over again. It just doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? So I know that offensive line's hampered a little bit, but they'll get healthy. Those guys will come back. What you don't have is a wide receiver. So I think the number one thing for me is the Green Bay Packers need to go get a wide receiver. I mean, hell, even Kendrick Bourne, go out and get him. But I think you need to go get Chase Claypool, get Brandon Cooks. You can give up a second-round pick because you just drafted another wide receiver with that second-round pick. So go get a guy that's established. Chase Claypool, Brandon Cooks, absolutely really, really good wide receivers in the NFL.
So you're not wrong, Nick. Problem is, whether you've been a Packers fan or not, I think for the last 15 years or however long Aaron Rodgers has been the starting quarterback for the Packers, we've all been saying that. We've all been banging our head against the wall saying the Packers need to draft a receiver. The Packers need to go get a legitimate number one in a trade or do something to help Aaron Rodgers, right? We always talk about Aaron Rodgers is so great in his prime, and not to say that he's still not, that he has been able to make others better. He was fortunate enough to obviously have Devontae Adams for so long, and then the organization chose to let him walk, right? Or not let him walk, but trade him. So when I look at Green Bay, yes, you are 100% right. They need to get a receiver, a Claypool, a Brandon Cooks, a DJ Moore from the Panthers, someone. Just tell DJ Moore to keep his helmet on when he scores a touchdown, and maybe his team will have a better chance to win. But that's another
yeah.
Here nor there. The problem is, I don't trust the Packers organization to do that because they have not shown us in Aaron Rodgers' entire career with the Packers that they will go out and make those types of decisions to improve the team. They are basically saying, Aaron Rodgers, you are one of the best quarterbacks ever to play. Fix it, make it happen, right? And we are clearly seeing, I don't know if it's Rodgers not being to the elite status anymore. I don't know if it's because the receivers are just too young and there's not a good sense of kind of camaraderie. They're not on the same page. I don't know what it is, but I don't have 1 ounce of trust in that organization that they will actually bring in reinforcements. So you are right, but I can't sit here and say it's going to happen because for the past 15 plus years, they have proven to us that they're not willing to make that sacrifice.
No, and you're not wrong about that. But that's, I think, where the emphasis comes from me, that they have to do something, and there really is no reason not to. But yeah, no, I know it doesn't make any sense, but they have to go get a wide receiver, Jared Smith. They have
to do that this past offseason. They had to do it 5 years ago.
Fuck drafting a guy, though. Go get a guy. Go get Chase Claypool. Go get Brandon Cooks. It obviously doesn't work when they draft guys. Who is there? But, I mean, besides Devontae Adams, right? It's like there's nobody there. There's nobody there. Randall Cobb, I guess, kind of worked out, but he's been on the team for like 15 years.
I'll say this right now, and
sure.
It's after tonight's Monday Night Football game, we're going to wrap up Week 8. I think the Packers are just about done. I don't know. I think here's another thing that the Packers organization is seriously considering. Is it worth giving up draft capital to get a Brandon Cooks or a Chase Claypool or a DJ Moore and bring that person in? Like, is this team legitimately good enough to make a turnaround? Because right now it looks like the Vikings have a hold of the division. Now, obviously, things can still change, and there's still 8+ games. But the Packers aren't going to make a wild card. If the Packers make the playoffs, it's going to have to be because they win the division, in my opinion.
No. Wait a minute, Jared. We just went over the standings, and this is not out of the realm of possibility. The only team below them that's even competitive is the Cardinals. So they're at the bottom. When we got, they're right there. So I'll just say the same thing I did with the Cardinals. I disagree with you wholeheartedly. They're not gonna win the division. They have to get into the wild card, and the only teams ahead of them are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I think are kind of in the same situation as them. And I do think if the Buccaneers don't do anything and the Packers do, that bolts them ahead of the Buccaneers. Their quarterback looks like shit. Okay. He may be a lot older than Aaron, but Tom Brady doesn't look good. So I'm going to trust Aaron Rodgers over Tom Brady. That defense, Buccaneers is probably a little bit better, but they're hampered with injury. Right now, the Packers have a relatively healthy defense. Then you look at the Rams. I think they're a better team than the Rams, right? If they get a wide receiver, they're a better team than the Rams. They are. They're a better quarterback. Okay. And the Rams have no running game. They're better than the Commanders. I know they lost, but again, if you add a guy, they're better than the Commanders. Okay. And then it's the 49ers and the Giants and the Cowboys and the Seahawks. Yeah, it'll be tough, but it's still possible. It absolutely is still possible. But I mean, yeah, Jerry, this is what I'm saying though. It's a little easier for the Cardinals to get into the playoffs than it is the Packers, because the Packers don't have all those premium matchups to get them wins and but absolutely. And what's not to say that if they get Brandon Cooks and Rodgers starts going off with him, and then the other receivers are more open, and then Aaron Jones is more open, and then A.J. Dillon comes back to being a fantasy football player, who's not to say that they get momentum? We've seen that in the NFL before. Look at the Titans. That one year they got to the AFC Championship, nobody thought they were legitimate. And then you get into the playoffs and you start making moves, and that's what it is. So I disagree with you. I think, number one, they have to get in to the wild card, because the Vikings they're going to win too many games. And number two, I think that if they make a move, they absolutely do, because I think they're better than the Buccaneers. I think they're better than the Rams. They're better than the Commanders. 49ers, that's a tough one. But the Giants will probably lose some games, right? You have the Seahawks and the NFC West, 49ers volt ahead, all that stuff. Just saying. I still think Cardinals. I still think Cardinals ahead of everybody. But
well, of course you are. You're biased. What I'm saying is, what we've seen from 8 weeks so far of this Packers team is a shell of themselves. It is not the Packers team that's went to back-to-back NFC Championship games. It's not the Packers team that had Aaron Rodgers the MVP. I don't really know who this Aaron Rodgers is right now, right? And then he goes into the post-game press conference the last couple of weeks, and without literally saying, my team sucks and my team isn't good, he's saying that in other ways. I don't know if he's trying to challenge his team through the media, but whatever he's doing from a leadership standpoint, it's not working. So I don't think this team offensively is gelling and has that cohesiveness to actually make a run. I think they do need to get a receiver. But if they do get the likes of a Brandon Cooks, because I think that would be one of their best chances. I don't see them getting a DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore would cost too much. I don't see them getting a Chase Claypool. I think that the Steelers would ask too much. I think because it's the Texans and because they're not going anywhere, that would probably be their best value. But is Brandon Cooks inserted into the Packers wide receivers core lineup going to put them over the top or going to make that much of a difference? I don't know. I don't know if I can, because Brandon Cooks the number one receiver. I'm not saying he has to come in to be a Devontae Adams, but is Brandon Cooks a number one guy that is going to lead your offense? I don't know that. Yes, with Aaron Rodgers throwing you the ball, Brandon Cooks, it's gonna obviously help. But I don't know if that's going to propel them to get ahead. This isn't a Devontae Adams situation that you're trading for. This isn't a Tyreek Hill situation that you're trading for, right? This isn't a Stephon Diggs situation. So none of those guys are out there on the market, at least not that we know of, So the guys that we're talking about are good, solid number twos, but I don't see any of those guys as pure number ones that like a defense is going to have to say, we got to start with doubling this guy or else we're going to lose. You know what I mean? So that combined with the fact that the Packers have already shown us this year that they're just pretty much they suck. I don't see them, whether they get a receiver or not, making the playoffs and having this second half of the season jump. I just don't see it. I think the Packers are pretty much done. Now, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going anywhere because he signed a 4-year contract. And this is just the first year of that contract. So I don't know. I don't believe that he'll play out all 4 years. But Aaron Rodgers is going to be here next year. Aaron Rodgers ain't going anywhere. Tom Brady's going to be gone. This is Tom Brady's last year. We can get into that later. But Aaron Rodgers is going to be back next year. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, no, it's up for discussion. Jared, I just think that it's different because he's the best quarterback in the league. So you give the best quarterback a weapon. That's different than giving Daniel Jones a weapon. It's different than giving Murray a weapon.
Well, I disagree with you right there. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the league.
Okay, but I know I get it. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, but I mean, I think all three of them with the talent. I mean, obviously, has Josh Allen been as good as he is this year without Stephon Diggs? No, he wasn't. You know what I'm saying? So like, again,
Josh
all
Allen was
that.
this good last year.
No, without the Stephon Diggs 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, because look how good Aaron Rodgers was with Devontae Adams. I compare it to that. Like, I know Brandon Cooks is not Devontae Adams, but who really is Devontae Adams? The Raiders blow, right? So it's like maybe Rodgers really does make these guys. Like, I'd rather see Claypool, because I think Claypool might be like a number one wide receiver that just had a bad influence in Juju Smith-Schuster and Antonio Brown with the Steelers. And it's like, now that he's like gets on a guy and Rodgers yells at him and talks shit on him on the Pat McAfee show every Tuesday, I think he'll be like, oh shit, this is real. I got to be number one guy. Yeah, no, he's a smart guy, Notre Dame, right? So I would rather see them go get Claypool, a younger guy, kind of restart Rodgers' wide receiver career. But still, I think it makes a big deal. Okay, let's get into the Buccaneers, because they're another team. They're right there. We started with the Cardinals, Packers, Buccaneers, right? These teams are outside the playoffs. The Buccaneers, Jared, I think their number one need is offensive line. I think they have no shot if they don't improve their offensive line, because Fournette is a formidable running back. The wide receiver core has just not been healthy. It's there. Godwin's there. Evans is there. Julio Jones is there. Gage is there. They're just not healthy, right? It obviously, Gronk being out does affect this offense too. They don't have him, but the offense is fine. I think, and the defense is fine too. I think the biggest problem here is you have a really, really old quarterback, literally and figuratively, and historically, and you just need offensive line. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree, but I'm almost of the same mindset. And this is tough. Like, I'm not trying to sit up here when I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers and the Packers being done. Like, I don't necessarily want to say that. I respect Aaron Rodgers and his greatness and what he can do, right? And I say the same thing about Tom Brady. 7-time Super Bowl champion. He's been doubted multiple times, right? All these things, and he's been able to overcome that. But you're right. I think their biggest need is offensive line, because when you lose offensive linemen in the offseason, when one of them retires, when you're down to your second and your third string guys, and then when you top that with injuries to your wide receivers and to your defensive secondary, like the Bucs defensive secondary was missing 2 or 3 starters when they played on Thursday night against the Ravens, and they've missed guys throughout the whole year. So injuries, like next to like the 49ers, I feel like the Bucs have been like one of the most injury plagued teams all year long. So that is obviously a big thing for them. But we have to go based off of what we've seen right now and their current injury status. So yes, I think offensive line help would be big. I think the biggest problem with the Buccaneers right now is Tom Brady's just not in it. He's simply not in it. And so
I wonder why. Did something happen? Did something happen a couple days ago?
Something might have happened. He may or might have gotten divorced, officially, unofficially, who knows.
Wait a minute, Jared. Are you saying that a legitimate celebrity powerhouse couple broke up and it's affecting an organization? Are you saying
that? No, it's the first time ever. It's the first time it's ever happened. That's why it's such big news.
I'll say this. Huge. It's Beyonce, Jay-Z. It was Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. I mean, I'm just saying, Brady, Giselle is up there in that top 5, top 10. You're going to get to top 10 in about 5-10 minutes. We're talking about the rankings of celebrity couples. It is a giant divorce. And to think that, it's being covered on ESPN's main page is the number one story. Who else in sports is that happening to? Nobody, right? And so, yeah, that's something you can't fix, right? Maybe they can't. I don't know. Maybe the Buccaneers have the ultimate marriage counselor in their organization. Maybe Bruce Arians could get them together in a room and be like, you know what? What the fuck are you guys doing? Just go all Bruce Arians on them and be like, you're affecting this team. Giselle, hold out for the rest of the year. If we win the Super Bowl, you stay with Tom. If we lose, break up with him. No, but
I'm glad you bring up Bruce Arians, because here's where I'm going with my point, and I hope you can follow me here. So when Tom Brady decided to go to the Buccaneers after leaving the Patriots, The first couple weeks, it was like training camp, and there were rumors that Bruce Arians was pretty hard on Brady, right? Brady's a 6-time Super Bowl champion at the time coming in. Obviously, all the money, all the status in the world, greatest of all time, all that stuff. And Bruce Arians is treating him just like he's another dude, right? Bruce Arians was not afraid to get in his face, yell at him, scream at him, basically say, yes, I know who you are and I recognize your greatness, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to sit here and yell in your face. And I think to a degree, Tom Brady respected that, right? Like we saw that team of 2020 and even last year that just had a better cohesiveness, gelled a lot better. So we go into this offseason. Obviously, Bruce Arians takes a step back. He's a consultant or whatever the hell you want to call him, but he's still on the sidelines yelling at referees. And we have Todd Bowles that steps in as the head coach, right? Now, Todd Bowles has always been more of a laid back, kind of conservative type approach. He's not a rah-rah, yell, get in your face type of guy. And I'm not saying that Tom Brady needs that because obviously Bill Belichick wasn't a huge rah-rah guy either. But I say this, Tom Brady, for 19, 20 plus years, however long he's been in the league, up until this offseason, did he ever miss 11 days of training camp to do whatever the hell he did? Go be with his family or go overseas or did you ever hear about Tom Brady, taking time off in the off season, especially in training camp, leave his team during practices? Yeah, no, I don't think so. You ever heard of Tom Brady in season just a month ago taking a Friday off, 2 days before a game, mind you, to go to a wedding, albeit Robert Kraft, your former owner, I'm sure you have a lot of respect and a great relationship for, but in season, 2 days before a game, and you're going to go to a wedding that you're going to have to fly to and fly back? Like, Tom Brady is the problem here. So they can get offensive line help, but the problem is Tom Brady is just simply not 100% in. And Tom Brady can't be Tom Brady unless he is 2 feet in, 2 hands in, full body in, fully submerged into football. Like that's what he eats, sleeps, and breathes. And right now, that is not his main focus, which is then trickling down to the rest of the team. Because Tom Brady has only known one way, and that is full 100% go, and he expects that out of everyone else. So now, when Tom Brady is taking time off, when Tom Brady's leaving on a Friday to go to a wedding just 2 days before a game, what do you think that message sends to the rest of his teammates? Now, I'm sure that they still respect him, but I'm sorry, you can't tell me that that hasn't had an effect on this team, on the players, on the organization. I think it truly has. And also, if you're Todd Bowles, going back to the head coach, he has allowed this. Now, we can speculate. I don't know if Bruce Arians would or would not, but I feel like because Todd Bowles is now in this situation, to a degree, he's being taken advantage of. So I think there are way more issues going on than just bringing in a potential offensive lineman or a potential player. Because I think this team just simply not gelling. Like, we literally saw it on Thursday night. I don't know if you watched the game. But there were multiple times when Tom Brady will be coming off of the field after not converting on a third down, and he will be yelling at Mike Evans because they simply were not on the same page. This is the same 2 guys, the same team that won a Super Bowl 2 years ago and looked amazing. And now this is their 3rd year together, and they look like they barely even practiced. Like, there's something more going on here. And to me, I think it's Tom Brady. So you can go ahead and try to bring in an offensive lineman, try to bring in some defensive help, whatever you want to do. I think this team simply is not mentally there. You can have the physical tools and you can bring guys back from injury, but if you're not mentally there, if you don't mentally have your person's back, your team, you're not going to succeed. I don't care if you're at the professional, collegiate, high school level. So this is on Tom Brady. He should have just stayed retired. He could have went in the booth, could have made his $375 million, and probably still be married right now. But he loves the game so much that he decided to go against his wife, go against his kids, go against his family, come back after retiring, trying to do a Michael Jordan. And obviously, look how that's worked out. Your team sucks. There's no cohesiveness. You got players injured. And now your wife's divorcing you.
Jared, all I said was I think the Buccaneers need an offensive lineman. I love that. I'm not feeling too well today. I needed a little break on the podcast. That was amazing. And you know what? I'm not even going to say anything about that because I completely agree with everything that you said. When you look at that team last year, right? or 2 years ago they win the Super Bowl. And last year, Jared, I mean, they're one Cooper Cup break from going to the Super Bowl, maybe even winning the Super Bowl again, right? If Cooper Cup doesn't break off and Matt Stafford doesn't hit him with like a minute left in the game, the Buccaneers had that game. They came all the way back. They had the momentum. They would have gone on. They could easily beat the 49ers, right? They could have gone. They could have beaten the Bengals, right? That team was as close to a Super Bowl team as you could get, right? And now this year, you echo everything that has happened. You look at everything that's happened, and that is why this team is there. So yeah, you know what? I still think they need an offensive lineman, but what you said is the true truth. And I don't think, much like Rodgers, after what you kind of just said, I don't think that one offensive lineman would make that big of a difference. I do think this team is kind of dead in the water. And yeah, maybe you need to have Bruce Arians hit Todd Bowles in the back of the head with a chair and take over the head coaching duties and be like, Tom, fuck you. You're going to be here 7 days a week practicing. Now you're more free because you don't got to take care of your kids. You don't have a wife to look at. So what are you doing going anywhere else? You're going to be in the facility 7 days a week. So yeah, but awesome monologue there on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers struggles. We've gone a little long in this segment. I just want to echo a couple real quick things that I had thought of as far as NFL trade deadline, but these are not as big as the other stuff we were talking about. Another team I think is kind of dead in the water right now is the Rams. When you look at them, they're I believe 29th or 30th in offensive production this year, and rushing is atrocious. They need a running back, and they need to trade away Cam Akers, and maybe they go get out Alvin Kamara, maybe they go get Kareem Hunt, but they need a running back in order to have any semblance of something this year as far as Super Bowl goes. When you look at the Giants, who are a playoff team, who I think will end up making the playoffs, they need a wide receiver. Okay. They also, it wouldn't hurt if they went out and got an offensive lineman. They're kind of hampered at offensive line right now too. The Giants need to do something at this deadline, or they're not true Super Bowl contenders, right? Ravens, in the short term, maybe they don't really need stuff because they shored up the defense. I think they need a wide receiver. The number one wide receiver right now is Devin Duvernay. Rashad Bateman's out for a couple weeks. Mark Andrews might be beat up. You can't rely on Isaiah Likely and give Devin Duvernay, especially if Gus Edwards is out for an extended period of time too. That offense is just all Lamar Jackson. And then real quick, the Tennessee Titans, they lost Harold Landry, torn ACL. I think they need to go out and get a Josh Allen or Bradley Chubb if those guys are available. Go out and get a pass rusher. And the Tennessee Titans, they're right there. Why can't they be Super Bowl contenders? Now they got, I believe they have Malik Willis. Did he play this weekend or is that next week?
Yeah.
He played this weekend. Yeah. So, I mean, Titans are right there again. Derrick Henry's a monster. You shore up certain little things. Those are little things I think need to happen. I still think all those, I mean, besides the Rams, I think all those other teams probably make the playoffs. But what do you think? Do you have any others that you want to throw out there as far as stuff that needs to happen? Just real quick, and then we'll get to college football.
Well, I'll keep it at that one. The only thing I will say, and this is from reporting that I have heard and read, the Denver Broncos have supposedly been offered at least a first-round pick for Bradley Chubb.
Give it up.
Now, the reports were also that if Denver lost this past week in London to Jacksonville, even with Russell Wilson back, that they would have probably accelerated a trade for Bradley Chubb and potentially Jerry Jeudy. But because they won, I think that puts them in somewhat of a pickle. So they're in a predicament right now of, okay, we won a game, albeit in London, albeit neutral field, albeit against Jacksonville. That's not that good. Russell Wilson comes back and looks better, probably the best game so far this season.
Stop.
And you just paid Russell Wilson $250 million to come over and win a Super Bowl right now. So do you still trade your potential stars in Jerry Jeudy and Bradley Chubb? Because then you're basically saying this season's over and we're going to have to retool. Well,
because it is. Jared, so what you're telling me is you beat Jacksonville, so now you think you can win a Super Bowl? Like what?
What I'm saying is if you're
Jerry
Russell
Jr. doesn't want to play
Wilson,
for the team.
if you're Russell Wilson, you're going to that front office and you're going to ownership and you're saying,
I wouldn't listen to a thing that guy says.
I'm not saying you do, but I'm saying you know that he wants his hands all over the organization. And so he's saying, I didn't come here for you guys to trade away players and for us to start over next year. Albeit they look like shit this year. I get that. But I think they're in a pickle right now of, do we trade those guys away and get a potential first round pick, maybe even more? Or do we keep them and sign them to long-term contracts? Because if you keep them, they're both coming up on their 4-year deals. So they are both going to need new contracts. So you either fork up the money and you keep them as building blocks, or you trade them away. There's one of two options right now. Like I said, because their contracts are coming up. I wish we had Alex Silva on the podcast right now, because I would love to hear his take on this. But that is one of the other ones that I'm keeping my eyes on is, does Denver make a move for Bradley Chubb? Because like I just said, they reportedly have an offer, don't know the team, that is willing to offer at least a first-round pick for Bradley Chubb. And you got to think about it too. Look at all the draft capital that they gave up to get Russell Wilson. So you look at your season and where your record is currently. You look at how unless you have a complete 180 turnaround, not likely you're going to make the playoffs. And you gave up a lot of draft capital this year and next year to get Russell Wilson. So do you want to get some of that capital back and kind of give up on the season? Or do you keep these guys and you pay them, and then you probably still don't make the playoffs this year? I don't know. That's why we're not in front offices right now. A little easier for us to talk about it.
Jared, 250 yards, interception, a touchdown, 17 rush yards from Russell Wilson, 21 points against Jacksonville Jaguars. Yep, I wouldn't trade guys. No, you made a good point. The draft capital. You trade all these guys for Russell Wilson. If you got guys that don't want to play with Russell Wilson, like Jerry Jeudy specifically, Melvin Gordon, get rid of them. Go draft a guy that has no choice, right? Go draft a guy from Alabama, or another guy from Alabama, or a guy from Georgia or Tennessee, and go get a different guy. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand that. I think they absolutely should trade certain guys. Don't give away everybody. But your defense is still good. You can give away one guy. If you don't plan on re-signing that guy, you have to give him a contract, trade him away. Draft a new guy. Right? Bradley Chubb's good, but he's not great so far. Bradley Chubb isn't Von Miller.
Now, I agree with you, but apparently there's a team out there that believes Bradley Chubb is great, because you don't just hand out first-round picks. So if a team is offering a first-round pick for Bradley Chubb, that they think he is a true difference maker. We'll see. He's been off on injured throughout his career so far. This is probably the healthiest that he's been, and he's looked good. But can you count on him giving up a first-round pick and then also having to pay him a $100+ million contract that he's going to be available for you down the road? I can't answer that question.
For this podcast, though, we are done. I am Nick Nenad.
I'm Jared Smith.
And we'll see you next week.
Don't forget.